I've been thinking about what really makes someone a Sigma male, and I realized something important. You don't just wake up one day and decide to become one. The traits we see, the independence, the preference for privacy, the comfort with being misunderstood, these aren't lifestyle choices. They're survival mechanisms that get hardwired during childhood when normal social strategies either stop working or become dangerous to rely on. Most people think Sigma males are just naturally introverted, but the reality behind that calm exterior is usually much darker. Behind that self-reliance are often childhood experiences that taught them early on that depending on others leads to disappointment, that showing vulnerability invites attack, and that the safest place is inside your own mind where no one else can reach you. These aren't dramatic sob stories. They're real explanations for why some people develop such strong internal compasses and seem so comfortable operating outside normal social hierarchies. When you understand what shapes a Sigma during their formative years, their adult behavior starts making perfect sense in ways that can be both impressive and heartbreaking. So if you're a Sigma, or if you've ever felt different growing up, here are 6 dark childhood experiences that probably shaped your Sigma mindset, turning you into that silent force who plays by their own rules. Number 1. You had to mature faster because survival depended on it. Picture being 8 years old and realizing that the adults in your life can't be counted on to handle basic responsibilities. So if you want things to work out, you better figure it out yourself. While other kids were playing games and trusting that someone else would take care of the important stuff, you were learning to read situations, manage emotions, and solve problems way above your pay grade. Maybe it was having parents too busy with their own drama to notice you needed help, or being the oldest kid taking care of younger siblings because mom was working 3 jobs. Whatever the situation, you quickly learned that childhood innocence was a luxury you couldn't afford, and waiting for someone else to fix things usually meant nothing got fixed at all. This forced maturity creates a weird dynamic where you're simultaneously more capable and more isolated than other kids your age. You can handle situations that would overwhelm most adults, but you can't relate to peers still living in a world where someone else handles the big decisions. The survival instincts you develop become the foundation for how you approach every relationship and challenge for the rest of your life. Number 2. You often felt like an outsider. Early on, even in familiar places. You know that feeling when you're sitting in a room full of people who are supposed to be your family, friends, or classmates, but somehow you feel like you're watching everything from behind glass? Even in places where you technically belonged, there was always this sense that you were different in ways others couldn't understand or didn't want to deal with. Maybe you were the kid who asked too many questions that made adults uncomfortable, or had interests nobody else shared, or just thought about things in ways that seemed to confuse people around you. While other kids seemed to fit naturally into whatever group they were born into, you felt like you were constantly translating yourself into a language other people could understand. This early outsider experience teaches you that belonging isn't something you can take for granted. You become really good at observing group dynamics from the outside, which gives you insights that insiders miss. But it also means you never fully relax into just being accepted for who you are. Number 3. Betrayal cut deep, forging your heart to trust no one completely. There's a specific type of pain that comes from having someone you completely trusted turn around and use your trust against you. And when this happens during childhood, it rewires how you approach every relationship that comes after. Maybe it was a parent who promised they'd stop drinking and then showed up drunk to your school play, or a best friend who shared your biggest secret just to get a laugh. The betrayal that shapes future Sigma males usually isn't dramatic. It's often quiet, consistent disappointment from people who should have been safe. You learn that even people who claim to love you will choose their own comfort over protecting your feelings. And this lesson gets burned into your memory in ways that don't fade with time. What makes childhood betrayal really damaging is that kids naturally trust completely until they're taught not to. So when that trust gets broken, it fundamentally changes how you evaluate people and relationships. You start looking for signs of potential betrayal in everyone you meet. Not because you're paranoid, but because experience taught you that most people will choose themselves over you when it really matters. Number 4. You saw the world. Clearly, but that clarity left you alone. There's something really lonely about being the kid who notices that everyone's just pretending things are fine when they're obviously not. While your classmates seemed perfectly happy going along with whatever adults told them, you couldn't help but see the obvious stuff that didn't make sense. Like how popular kids got away with things that would get you in trouble, or how teachers had clear favorites but acted like they treated everyone the same. You were probably that kid who asked questions that made adults squirm or pointed out things everyone else was ignoring. Pretty quickly, you figured out that most people don't actually want honesty. They want you to go along with whatever makes them comfortable, even when it's clearly not true. When you can see through the fake stuff that everyone else buys into, it becomes really hard to connect with people who are living in what feels like a completely different reality. Making friends becomes almost impossible because real friendship needs people who can handle the same level of honesty, and most people just can't. Number 5. You learn to spot fakes and snakes before anyone else could. Growing up around people who regularly said one thing and did another creates kids who become experts at reading the gap between what people claim to be and what they actually are. You developed an almost supernatural ability to spot inconsistencies in behavior, catch lies before they fully formed, and sense when someone's motivations didn't match their presented image. This skill usually develops out of necessity, when your safety or emotional well-being depends on accurately reading people's true intentions. Your brain gets really good at picking up on subtle cues that other people miss. You learn to watch what people do, rather than listening to what they say, because experience taught you that actions reveal character in ways that words often disguise. The ability to see through people's facades becomes both a superpower and a burden. Once you can spot manipulation, dishonesty, or hidden agendas, you start seeing them everywhere. This makes you harder to fool, but also makes genuine connection difficult because you're always scanning for red flags, even when you want to trust someone. Number 6. School felt like a place where you had to hide who you were. School is supposed to be where kids learn and grow, but for future Sigmas, it often becomes a daily exercise in camouflage where showing your real thoughts, interests, or personality feels risky or pointless. You quickly figure out that being genuine gets you labeled as weird, too intense, or difficult, so you learn to dial down your natural curiosity, hide your actual opinions, and present a watered-down version of yourself. Maybe you were the kid who found assigned reading boring but loved researching random topics that fascinated you, only to discover that teachers didn't appreciate when you knew more about certain subjects than they did. Or you had ideas that were too complex for classroom discussions, so you learned to keep quiet rather than deal with blank stares or being told you were overthinking everything. School's social rules often punish authenticity and reward conformity, which creates a painful choice for kids who naturally think differently. Either fake being normal and feel disconnected, or be yourself and risk being rejected or misunderstood. This experience teaches you that most environments aren't safe for authenticity and that fitting in requires constant performance rather than genuine connection. Conclusion. If any of this felt familiar or made sense in a way that most things don't, you're probably not alone in this experience. The Sigma mindset isn't something people choose. It's something that gets forged in the fire of childhood experiences that most people never have to face. Understanding these patterns doesn't excuse negative behaviors, but it does explain why some people develop such strong internal compasses and seem so comfortable operating outside normal social hierarchies. These childhood experiences create adults who are incredibly resilient, self-aware, and capable of independent thinking. But they also create people who struggle with trust, connection, and vulnerability in ways that can be both impressive and heartbreaking. If you recognize yourself in these patterns, remember that your experiences shaped you into someone who can navigate the world in ways that others can't, even if that navigation sometimes feels lonely. Thanks for taking the time to explore this with me. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it too. Until next time, keep being authentically you, even when the world makes it challenging.